Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the psychological thriller films from 2025, titled American Sweatshop. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens with our protagonist, Daisy, who works as a content moderator for a large social media company. Her job is to review posts flagged by users, which the company calls tickets. If a ticket violates company policies, the employees must click delete, otherwise, they can approve it. While the job seems simple on the surface, it is mentally exhausting, as employees must watch countless disturbing and violent videos every day for hours. One morning, while everyone is working, an employee named Bob snaps, and angrily threatens to set the building on fire. A new employee, Paul, becomes worried to hear this, but Daisy reassures him that this is normal behavior for Bob, and it's just his way of coping.
I told him to do it, and that stupid idiot did it.
Everyone is obsessed with eating ass.
I fucked him and made him vomit.
Anybody there?
Right here.
Please.
Or are you?
Help me.
I love you.
After work, Daisy goes on a date with a man named Isaac, whom she met on a dating app. She opens up about her miserable job, and admits that she's doing it only because she has no other choice. Daisy also shares that her dream was to become a nurse, and that she even took the exam but didn't pass. Isaac encourages her to keep pursuing her dream, and their date ends with them getting intimate. The next morning, Daisy is summoned by her superior, Joy, who scolds her for deleting a video in which a woman fell 20 stories, causing her head to literally explode. Daisy explains that it was extremely disturbing, but Joy points out that the video was linked to a news site, and that their company could face a lawsuit. Daisy felt bad for the poor woman, but Joy scolds her and makes it clear that her job is not to make the guidelines, but to follow them. Later that night, while Daisy is relaxing at home, a neighbor arrives and asks her to babysit his daughter, Violet. She agrees, and when Violet arrives, Daisy notices the little girl using Reddit, which worries her. Fearing that the girl might be exposed to disturbing content, Daisy asks her to put the phone away, and suggests they watch a movie together, to which Violet excitedly agrees. The next day at work, Daisy talks with her coworker, Ava, and shares that she had a sudden realization. She states that even though their job is miserable, it still protects the people, and they watch disturbing content so the children won't have to. Later on, as Daisy resumes her work, she comes across a video titled Nailed It, in which a woman is seen lying in bed. Moments later, someone enters the room, and brutally impales the poor woman with a nail. The horrifying scene shocks Daisy so deeply that she immediately collapses from the shock. Ava quickly rushes to help her, after which Daisy is taken to the hospital. After her recovery, Daisy goes out with Ava, and admits how embarrassed she feels for fainting. Ava reassures her that it happens to other employees as well, and suggests she take a short break from work. That night, Daisy is haunted by the memory of the nail video, and struggles to fall asleep. The next morning, she receives an expensive hospital bill of $2,200, which frustrates her since her company doesn't provide any health insurance. This leaves her with no other choice, but to return to her mentally exhausting job. However, the very first video she sees upon opening her computer shows someone being beheaded, which instantly leaves her traumatized. Later, Daisy smokes some weed, and meditates to cope with the stress, but the disturbing nail video continues to haunt her mind. The frustrated woman thus approaches Joy, and asks her to report the video to the police for kidnapping, torture, and assault. However, Joy dismisses her concerns, saying the video could have been staged and consensual. She warns that if they go to the police, and are later proved wrong, it could create serious legal problems for the company. Daisy tries to protest further, but Joy asks her to see a counselor if the video is affecting her so deeply. Meanwhile, Bob meets with the company's counselor after receiving a complaint from his coworker, who is frightened by his outbursts. The counselor advises him to take breaks occasionally, and try coloring in a book to calm his mind. But Bob shares some of the disturbing content he has recently seen, and questions whether coloring a book could erase those images from his mind. He argues that the counselor should focus on employees who silently endure the disturbing material without venting their frustration like him. In another scene, Daisy decides to take matters into her own hands and goes to the police station. She meets an officer and shows him the nail video. When he asks how she found it, she explains that it appeared on her feed out of nowhere, and doesn't talk about her company. However, the officer tells her that he doesn't know where it was filmed, and can only investigate crimes within his own jurisdiction. He also believes the video is likely fake, and he cannot arrest anyone for making such a video, unless a minor is involved. This leaves Daisy extremely angry, so she lashes out and insults the police officer before storming off. That night, Daisy still can't sleep thinking about the video, so she begins searching on the internet, and soon finds the same footage on a porn site. She finds out that it was created by a production company called Klipspringer Films, and notices an older man in the footage. Daisy then links the video in a Reddit forum, and says she is looking for a man in this video. The next day at the office, Paul watches an extremely disturbing video, which makes him feel very nauseous. Daisy thus calms him down, and asks him not to vomit on the carpet, as the company will charge them for the cleaning. Later, the two of them have lunch together, during which Paul reveals that he actually graduated in computer science and coding. That night, Daisy watches some video tutorials to learn how to fight and defend herself, and she also browses online for taser guns and pepper spray. Not long after, she gets a response on a Reddit post, in which a guy named Callum says that even though he couldn't track the man, he found the address from where the video was uploaded. The next day, Daisy checks the address in Google Maps, and learns that it's only 2 hours away from her location. She then asks Bob if he has a gun she can borrow for a day. But he only gets offended that she would think of him like that kind of guy, and insists he doesn't have a gun. The next day, Daisy heads to the address, and as soon as she gets there, she checks the mailbox, and learns that the house owner's name is Richard, and returns to her car. She begins looking up the name on the internet when, all of a sudden, a man walks out of the house, who's most likely Richard. Daisy then follows him to a cinema hall, and watches him sit down to watch a violent movie. After the movie ends, Daisy follows Richard to the parking lot, and starts cursing at him. He is confused, so she shows him the disturbing video and accuses him of uploading it, but the man is just as horrified by the footage and denies having any knowledge about it. He calls her crazy for showing him such a video and drives away, leaving Daisy completely confused. Upon returning home, Daisy opens her Reddit and responds to Callum that it was the wrong guy. But Callum reveals that the man is just his coworker who annoys him, so he gave his address just to take revenge. Callum even calls Daisy an evil woman for posting such a horrifying video, and he hopes she gets arrested and assaulted in jail, which enrages Daisy. The next day, Daisy has lunch with Paul again, and asks for his help in tracking the man in the video since he's good with computers. He instantly refuses, and asks what she plans to do to that man, to which she responds that she just wants to look him in the eye before moving on. But Paul still refuses, saying these guys are dangerous, and it could end up putting Daisy's life at risk. That night, Daisy can't sleep as usual, so she replays the video, and looks for any details that can give her a clue. She notices a masked man torturing the woman, while an older man sits nearby, watching with amusement. Shaken, Daisy decides to message Klipspringer Films, and offer herself as a model for their upcoming videos. The next day, Joy speaks with her superior, and expresses concern about the frequent feigning incidents their employees have been having. She suggests they should take some safety measures, and invest in an emergency kit or crash cart. However, the man says the corporate will shut them down if they find out about such incidents, and instead advises her to organize something to boost the employees' morale. The scene then cuts to a party organized by the company, where all the employees are seen drinking and having fun. However, their mood soon turns sour when they talk about the worst videos they've seen, and everyone begins sharing their experiences. Paul says he doesn't have one yet, so Bob tells him to leave while there's still time. After all her coworkers leave, a drunk Daisy stays behind and strikes up a conversation with the bartender. She starts confiding about her job and the horrifying video she watched. The bartender admits that he knows the video she's referring to, and has seen it himself. He claims it just appeared in his feed, but Daisy finds it hard to believe that it could have just popped out of nowhere. The two then head outside to have some fun, during which Daisy removes his belt. But things take a bizarre turn when...
Okay.
Ah! Fuck! What do you do? Ah! Wait! Stop! Ah! Wait! Stop! Ah!
After the poor man collapses to the ground, Daisy finally stops and leaves. When she returns home, we see her sleeping peacefully after a long time. The next morning, Daisy arrives at work, and is worried to see police officers. But Ava informs her that someone who worked the overnight shift suffered a stroke, and nobody knew what to do. She adds that the management is claiming the employee is okay, but that's just what they always say to avoid panicking the employees. That night, Daisy is babysitting Violet again, right when she suddenly receives a text from Klipspringer Films asking if she's available, as they are filming a video tonight. Daisy doesn't want to miss this opportunity, so she decides to leave Violet at home, claiming she has some work at the office. The girl is worried about being alone, but Daisy reassures her that she will lock the door and won't be gone long. Not long after, Daisy arrives at the production studio, where she is greeted by a man. He hands her a form to fill out, and she shows him the old man's picture from the nail video, asking if he recognizes him. The man ignores her question, and says that phones are not allowed according to their company policy. Here Daisy grows increasingly frightened and tries to leave, but the door is now locked. The man assumes she's getting cold feet, and tries to persuade her to stay by offering money, but she refuses and demands that he unlock the door. When Daisy continues to insist, the man finally opens the door and lets her go, but as she's leaving, she notices his shoes, and recalls seeing the same pair in the disturbing nail video. This enrages her so much that she approaches the man again, and sprays him with pepper spray. Daisy also smashes the camera and other filming equipment, before finally running away. Upon returning home, Daisy is horrified to find Violet nowhere in sight. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door, and it turns out to be Violet's father, who is furious that she left the 10-year-old girl alone. He refuses to accept her apology and angrily scolds her before leaving. The next day, Daisy calls Isaac, whom she had been ignoring for months, and asks to hang out. She soon arrives at his place, where he helps her with her nursing lessons. Later, while they are in bed, she is constantly distracted by a next-door neighbor hammering on the wall. The noise soon triggers her, causing her to suddenly snap. She angrily hits the wall and begins cursing at the neighbor, which horrifies Isaac. Daisy soon calms down, and suggests they continue making love, but Isaac refuses and decides not to see her anymore. In another scene, Paul is working when he suddenly comes across a video of a dog being brutally abused, which shakes him to his core. He can't bear to watch it any longer, and immediately leaves the office while crying. Upon returning to his house, he collapses into the arms of his beloved dog and continues sobbing uncontrollably. Some time later, Paul approaches Daisy with an envelope containing the details of the man she has been looking for. He doesn't want to know what she plans to do with it, but asks her not to get hurt. Upon returning home, Daisy searches online to find out what human tissue feels like, and learns that it is similar to beef. She thus practices hammering nails into a piece of beef, hinting at the dark and sinister plan forming in her mind. The next day, Bob is working, when he stumbles upon footage that shocks him. Later, he shows Daisy the video of her brutally attacking the bartender. Bob reassures her that no one will recognize her, and says he only remembered because of what she was wearing that night. He asks if it was some kind of self-defense, but Daisy denies it and regrets her actions. Bob then states that it doesn't violate any rules, so he has decided to approve it, as deleting it would only draw more attention from the company. That night, Daisy is still haunted by her actions, so the next day she meets with the company counselor. She talks about a violent video she can't get out of her mind, and how it made her want to hurt someone. The counselor reassures her that in cases like this, people often develop a hero complex, and focus on revenge and the villain, rather than the victim. But Daisy is convinced that the woman in the video may have also wanted the man to suffer, just like she did. Realizing she can't do this anymore, Daisy informs Joy that she's quitting her job, but Joy informs her that her employee contract requires 2 weeks' notice before resignation. Daisy agrees, and in the following days, she continues her work while also preparing for her nursing exams.
Fuck! No! Ah! Ah!
She volunteers at a soup kitchen, and even while at work, she focuses on her studies. And after the 2 weeks pass by, Daisy logs off work for the final time, and leaves to begin a new chapter of her life. The scene then cuts to many days later, where Daisy has passed her nursing exam, and arrives at a hospital for an interview. During the interview, she shares the experiences she learned from her previous job, and suddenly says that she'd rather make the world worse than sit back and do nothing. This confuses the interviewer, but Daisy explains that bad things happen no matter what, and sometimes the only way to stop a bad thing is with another bad thing. The man is puzzled, and doesn't understand why she is saying all this in an interview, or how it relates to her job, but Daisy assures him that it does. Moments later, the camera pans to the interviewer, and in a shocking twist, we learn that he is the same old man from the Nail video, who has been terrorizing Daisy all this time. The movie ends as Daisy flashes a mischievous smile. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.